Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. Day one of Warcraft Alphas in the books. We got in the first day, the first wave, and I have actual gameplay footage of Soul Harvester, Diabolist, and Hellcaller for you for Warlock. I played them all today on stream. I have the videos of the dungeon runs up probably the next few days. We played every spec, all Afti Destra, with every single combination of hero talents, and they're all pretty awesome. I think as far as like gameplay is concerned and everything, Warlock feels good. I think Diabolist is probably the coolest, followed by like Hellcaller and then Soul Harvester being very close to them. But there are some pretty insane stuff each one can do, even with them being sort of bugged in the first build of Alpha. So today, looking at all that, I'll be streaming on Twitch and on YouTube for the foreseeable future. Obviously, if you want to come by, links to Twitch down below, and YouTube, hey, you're already here. Week warriors or add-ons, you want any of mine. They're not open on Alpha yet, but if you want any of them, Twitch and Discord links down below, all for free for you guys. And yeah, let's get it rolling. All right, so starting things off here, number one, I am 71. 72 is like the cap, I think, right now currently, but I do have all the hero talent points unlocked. Blizzard has made that an option for testing. Basically, you have it at level 80 at 71 and 72. Now, only one zone is open now and two normal dungeons. However, you can test on dummies. I've run a lot of dungeons, like I said. I'll have the videos on my YouTube next few days, all that kind of stuff. We're going to look at Diabolist here. Diabolist is both demonology and destruction. Now, there's a bit of a difference between Diabolist for Demo and Destra. There's a lot of like universal abilities, all that. They mentioned they're going to tune like Diabolic Ritual, Shard, Reduction, all that for Demo and Destra individually. So Destra consumes less shards and demonology, so they'll tune, you know, around that. And at the same time, the ability here, somewhere, Abyssal Dominion, this reduces Grimoire's cooldown, sinking it to Tyrant, being a minute and a half, and also makes it last longer. For Destruction, casting Cataclysm spawns an Overfiend, I think. It's basically a mini Smolderon that casts 2 Chaos Bolts. It's very, very cool, but we're going to look at the demo version, which has the Mother of Chaos, the Pit Lord, the Overfiend, or Overlord, I'm sorry. And then we'll look at Destra over here too, and then go into Soul Harvester and Hellcaller. So, basically, it's demonology, either spec, either way. Whenever you cast a spell through Diabolic Ritual here, spending a shard basically procs Diabolic Ritual, which is a countdown on either a Pit Lord, an Overlord, or a Mother of Shivara. It will always be the same rotation of pets every time. There's no RNG in it. Whenever your Overlord spawns, it increases the damage taken by you, or sorry, it increases the target it's hitting. Damage taken from you and your pets by 5% for 15 seconds. Whenever the Mother of Souls or Mother of Chaos spawns, it gives you basically an Infernal Bolt. It turns your Shadow Bolt into an Infernal Bolt, which gives you 3 Soul Shards and hits for 40k damage versus Shadow Bolt hitting for 12. A bigger Shadow Bolt, basically. Now, the Pit Lord, whenever it spawns, it gives you Ruination, which is your capstone. This thing is busted. Numbers right now, I wouldn't look at them much because they're going to be tuned a bunch. I casted Ruination in a dungeon earlier. I'll probably have it up tomorrow or the next day or whatever. It hit for 16 million. 16 million. It was split amongst, you know, multiple mobs. It didn't hit one for that much, but this thing crushes. When you're doing it in a dungeon, you can be in 3rd place on the meter before they, you know, broke add-ons today, and you jump into a commanding first whenever this thing hits. It is very wild. On top of that, it does not consume soul shards. You can cast a Hand of Gul'dan or whatever. Like, you can basically proc this off a Hand of Gul'dan. It'll empower your hand. It won't consume the shards you have whenever you cast it, but it will spawn 3 imps regardless. So you can go like basically Ruination for 0, having 3 shards, and a hand afterwards for 3 more imps. Very strong, very cool. And we'll go from there. Now, from what I've heard, the row here is bugged for a lot of things. Like Hand of Gul'dan, damage increase is bugged, as well as Flames of Zoroth. But this does indeed appear to be working. Abyssal Dominion, it's a minute and a half cooldown. And yeah, we will go from there. So let's take a look at this. Also, very briefly here, Touch of Rancora. Diabolic Ritual increases damage of your next Soul Shard spending ability by 100% and reduces the cast time by 50%. So strong there also. Cruelty of Curzan. Now, this says you gain a Diabolic Ritual whenever you cast your Tyrant or Infernal or Nether Portal. I'm assuming Warlock's getting some spec tree changes and class tree changes, and they're likely going to combine Portal and Tyrant into one talent. You take one or the other. I'm not sure. Could be wrong. I don't know. But either way, unfortunately, unless it's a bug, you cannot have 2 active Diabolic Rituals at one time. So I tested this earlier. sounds like if I have one rolling, which I do most of the time, all the time. Let's say you have the Pit Lord one rolling, and you cast your Tyrant, it will not proc, you know, the Overfiend or the Mother of Chaos on top of the Pit Lord. So a bit awkward there. If it's not fixed, likely just not gonna be really worth playing versus, you know, Infernal Machine. But either way, it's alpha. We'll see where it goes. Let's take a look at them visually and see where they're at. So I'm gonna open up normal rotation here. I'm not gonna like look at, you know, optimizing it or anything. Oh, demonic cores are bugged also. It consumes 2 stacks casting 1 bolt. So let me cast a bolt here. I have 2 stacks. I have 1. I have 0. Let's keep that in mind. I'm going to cast dogs here. This will spawn the first ritual. This is going to be the Overlord. So how it works, it's sort of like Doombrand. When you cast shark consuming spells, it reduces the duration. And then when it reaches 0, it doesn't spawn the pet right there. It then gives you another buff that says, hey, the next spell you cast will then proc this thing. I'm going to cast it. And here he comes. He spawns here. He leaps in and slashes an AoE ability and also debuffs them. Cloven Soul taking more damage from your pets. At the same time, Mother of Chaos is not rolling. So I'm going to reduce this by casting Hand of Gul'dan. It's going to basically proc the Mother right about now. Mother of Chaos, casting a hand, spawns here. Super sick visual. It's a huge spell barrage. Super, super sick. And look, the Pit Lord's rolling now, right? And she also empowered my Shadow Bolt into an Infernal Bolt. You want 3 shards? There you go. The Pit Lord's out in 6 seconds. Let's make it 2 seconds. 1 second. So he's ready to go. He spawns. He is super sick. He's massive with a huge Spellseeker. It is half his body, but the visual is actually another portal he should be coming out of. It's just not working right now. And he empowered my Hand of Gul'dan. Look at the Ruination, I guess, like, visual here. Let's cast it. A huge meteor comes down. Boom. Dude. And the damage is wild in this thing. There are 3 imps there. And look, Overlord's back up. So let me drop combat here and show like a normal rotation, right? Because they all look super sick, but I want to show you how fast you can proc these things basically back to back in combat. You almost always have something spawning every 5 or 10 seconds. It's actually really crazy how fast you can proc these things. If I can leave combat here. Let's see if I can. Hopefully so. Yep, cool, we left combat. Awesome. So now from what I've seen, I can't cast things fast enough to have like 2 active at once. It'd be a pretty big reduction on Diabolic Ritual. But either way, let's cancel this or wait for it to fall off, and we will open up here. And you basically have one proccing almost all the time. So we're going to siphon here. Once again, Demonic Cores bugs, a little more awkward, but it is what it is. I'm going to wait for this Pit Lord buff to clear. I'll clear it now, actually. And here we go. So cast our Shadow Bolts. Shadow Bolt, Shadow Bolt. I'm going to open up like I would on retail. Cast Grimoire. You Soul Stroke whatever dogs. Already have a ritual up. Going to cast a hand here. Ed Bolt, whatever, because it's bug. Doesn't really matter. We'll hand again. We got Tyrant. I am playing Ring of Tyranny here. So there's the Pit Lord buff. There's the Pit Lord being summoned. There's the Ruination Meteor. There's that. Another Hand of Gul'dan because the Meteor is free. Pit Lord's gone. But look, we literally have an Overlord spawning in basically 1 second. So we're going to do this. Cast our dogs. Dogs are free from calling there, but they still proc the Overfiend, which is very, very cool. And look, we have a Mother of Chaos in 10 seconds. Now it's actually 5 seconds with the reduction here. It's going to be basically right now as well. Cast this Bolt and watch the Mother spawn. And they'll spawn even like a little bit faster every time as well because I'm having to basically cast, you know, the Demonic Core bug. Not having as many shards as I usually do, right? You're cycling through pets so often. The Pit Lord is literally back out. A Ruination, there it is again. Like, it is very fast how often you cycle through pets. It's super cool. The visuals are insane. Like, Diabolist feels like what... It's the essence of Warlock. A huge Pit Lord, an Overfiend, a Shavara with his huge powerful attacks, and they empower your other abilities too. Very, very cool. They're just spawning over and over so often, so frequently. And that's not all. When it comes to destruction, Destro has all 3 of these pets, and it also has the Cataclysm ability. Whenever you cast Cataclysm, it summons an Overfiend, I think. It's basically a mini Smolderon that launches 2 Chaos Bolts. Let me change the Destro here if I can. If I can drop combat at some point. It's really, really cool. It's not as big, but it's still a mini Smolderon. Now, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, other players cannot see your actual pets from these. But I'm venturing to guess the trade-off is, hey, they're massive, but other players can't see them. And when it comes to that, I'll take that. I'll make that trade. Also, the spellbook is part of your talent page now. It's much larger, easier to navigate, which is very cool. Yeah, very cool. So we're going to do this. I am playing Diabolist here. So the ability we're looking at here is Abyssal Dominion. Cataclysm summons an Overfiend that casts 2 Chaos Bolts at 80% effectiveness before departing. Very cool. It makes Cataclysm relevant in single target, whether you're playing it in Plus or not. Couldn't tell you. Talents might change at this point. Either way, very, very cool. So let's check this out here. I don't have my bar set up, but I have enough to show you. Put my Infernal down. No pet, doesn't matter. Cast some Conflict Rates here. I'm going to hold the Kata. Get 2 pets out at once. That's cool. So we have Pit Lord rolling here. Supposed to be spawning in basically 5 seconds here roughly. Cast a bolt. Reduce this more from 6 to 3. I'll hold this. Cast the bolt now. He'll come out now. Let's cast a Kata as well. Where's the Overfiend? There he is. The Pit Lord and the Fiend are out. There's the 1 bolt. Here comes 2 bolts. And you can do that with the at least Overfiend every 30 seconds. Now, is he relevant like in mass AoE and things? Not necessarily as much as he is single target, but you have Cataclysm applying immolates to basically every mob that it hits, right? Whether you play Kata or Inferno in Plus, we'll see what happens. Once again, talents might just change either way, but it certainly makes Cataclysm relevant in single target. You're spawning an Overfiend that casts 2 Chaos Bolts for free. You can cast the bolt, he can cast the bolt, sync him up. Your bolt's used. There's a mother coming out. Diabolist is just sick, man. Like, honestly, the spec tree needs some changes still for every spec. But even putting all that aside, like, having Diabolist out just feels like you're playing a different spec. Almost. Like, the way that it modifies all your passive abilities. They're all passive effects, but they all modify. Like, your bolts become bolts that summon Mothers of Chaos or Pit Lords or things, and they turn other spells into these cool abilities. They're just super, super sick. Really cool. Diabolist is probably the most flavorful of any spec I've ever played for Warlock or any class at all. It is super sick. But at the same time, there's Soul Harvester and Hellcaller still to look at. So let's take a look at those. All right, so Soul Harvester. This is the Demonology and Affliction shared hero tree, hero talent tree. It def has more of an Affliction kind of feel to it, but it works for both. So the ability here, Demonic Soul. A demonic entity now is basically a part of you. It allows you to detect if a soul shard is succulent or not. A succulent soul shard empowers your next Hand of Gul'dan or its Rapture for Affliction, reducing its cost by 1 for Hand of Gul'dan, and summoning 1 extra imp for Hand of Gul'dan. For Affliction, its Rapture has no shard cost and gives you a 20% damage increase to Rapture. It also does some damage whenever it spawns, right? Now you can build upon that with Soul Anathema. Your Demonic Soul bestows a fiendish entity, basically just it's a dot on the mob, which is very cool. You have things like Necrolite Teachings, which buff Shadow Bolts, Bolt and Siphon. It buffs Drain Soul if you're playing Affliction. Demoniac's Fervor, giving you basically more focus damage on your Hand of Gul'dan target. For Affliction, it's unstable Affliction, basically a little like Contagion or whatever. You also have Feast of Souls or Shared Fate. Now, I've been playing Shared Fate. There are some polls that this thing with Soul Flame for Affliction is utterly insane with. Utterly insane. I hit like 6 million DPS. You think AF is wild in Algothar's Academy now? This thing is crazy because it passes the dot to a mob, but then it pulses on every mob around that mob. If it's a large pull and you have small mobs dying, it is ludicrous levels of damage. It is really cool too. I pulled Threat both times and died. Feast of Soul is interesting too. Whenever you kill a target, you can get a shard back. It can be succulent. It's sort of cool. I've been liking Shared Fate more in dungeons, but we'll see where it goes. These are bugged from what I understand. Mantle the Harvester and Satiel's Ambition. They're sort of that. Consuming Demonic Core activates Shared Fate or Feast of Souls, which is up here. This was not bugged earlier, but it is bugged now. Basically, it makes Shared Fate Mythic Plus sort of how Doombrand is now on retail, where if you have Demonic Cores, you can put out Shared Fate on a mob, then tab to another one, put another Shared Fate out, another Shared Fate. They don't like stack or anything on a mob, right? So it's sort of Doombrand-esque, but the damage it puts out is actually really impressive. Now, Shadow of Death, Nether Portal and Tyrant grant Shadow of Death for 15 seconds. While Shadow of Death is active, casting Hand of Gul'dan always invokes your Demonic Soul, which is this thing from here, which spawns Soul Anathemas and stuff like that, right? I guess technically it's where it does, but it increases. The soul deals 10% increased damage. So this tree is mostly like passive, barring like weaving, Shared Fates and things like that. But It's pretty cool. So, we saw it as demo here. Let's take a look at it as Affliction. Now, AF is based around Nightfall, like Drain Soul Nightfall when it comes to this tree, right? It feels more AF based to excuse me, AF based to me. Mantle of the Harvester, unfortunately, is bugged. Haunt will not give you a stack of Nightfall. I'll show you right here. It is bugged. You don't get any Nightfall stacks, unfortunately. So when this is fixed, it'll feel a lot better because Nightfall will proc Shared Fate or Feast of Souls, which you get by, casting Haunt, and also just getting Corruption ticks coming in, right? However, there's still a lot of just general power behind this. So what we're going to do here, we're going to open up a bit, like a normal AF rotation. You can tell when a shard or a soul becomes succulent, your rapture will glow. Now, they could also add seed to this and not just be rapture based, because like Shadow of Death only empowers your raptures. This works around rapture. So if you're in a setting, we want to cast seed a bunch with you have these procs from Demonic Soul and this coming in, but also like, what do you do if you want to seed a bunch, right? We'll see where that goes, but either way, let's open up here. Now, the visual for this is actually on your character. I'm going to open up here, cast a UA, normal old opener, because I'm OG. That's a Nightfall proc there. We'll drain. Cast this. Gonna cast this here. Gonna Rapture. Now, the visual on this right there. So, see this visual coming out of me? That's Shah. That is basically, that is the actual effect, like the visual effect, right, from those Succulent Souls. Because whenever you cast Soul Rot, you get Shadow of Death for 15 seconds. Whenever you Rapture, it always invokes your Demonic Soul, and that is your Demonic Soul. Whenever you invoke your Demonic Soul, it puts up the dot, which is Soul Anathema, and it gives you a bit more like single target focus, I guess, or cryo focus. And, well, that's just sort of that. Now, the thing here, like I said, like Haunt is not guaranteeing the Nightfall charge yet, whatever, and having that do that, you can see how impactful it'll be, because whenever you get a Nightfall proc, you get basically a Demonic Soul. It'll give you a Succulent Soul. If you're playing Feast of Souls, it'll give you a chance to generate a Succulent Soul shard, or if you're doing like AoE or whatever, and you have Shared Fate, it gives you more Shared Fate procs more often, right? You can see how crazy this can get with Shared Fate and things like Soul Flame and the AoE that it brings and all that. So it's very synergistic, sort of complicated in a sense, but it's honestly at the same time pretty passive, right? Both revolving around a Rapture, or if you're, playing Demo, Hand of Gul'dan. But, thankfully you're casting Hand as Demo regardless, whether you're an AoE or single target. For AF though, if you're in mass AoE, you want to cast Seed with and not necessarily Rapture. This could be their attempt to just make Rapture like relevant in those kind of settings. When you're pulling a whole dungeon, like 20 plus mobs, and you have Vital Taint being capped at 8 and things like that for Agony applications, it's a bit of a hard choice to, bit of a hard sell. You can just Seed, right? But either way, the visual is cool. There might be a visual that gets added for a Soul Anathema or Shared Fate, but there's nothing that I can see right now for these. Let me head over here. I can't really see much for them at all right now, but, either way, fingers crossed. Soul Rot, pop that. Starts spamming Raptures, and there is indeed, once again, the soul that's coming out of me. And unfortunately, damage meters don't work right now. But either way, it was doing a lot of damage in plus, and also like having the shard cost reduction when you get the actual Succulent Soul proc feels really good. It'll help smooth AF out more with Dread Touch, uptime if you're playing it, just general shard conservation. If you do end up playing something like Feast of Souls, generating that shard when you kill a target on some fights with ads or whatever, or having a chance to, will also make the spec feel a little better. It feels good, it feels fluent, but what we really need is to have this working with Haunt. When it does work, it'll feel much better. At the same time, this is actually, this is bugged, I believe, and so is this. But even looking at like its core to structure, it's still pretty cool. And honestly, with it all being passive, the effects are still pretty solid. All right, and the final tree we have is Hellcaller, the Destruction Demonology, I guess, Destruction AF shared hero talent tree. Now, this is the one that has Hellcaller is the only tree that adds a button to your actual keybinds. It's the only one that has a button in Malevolence, being a 1 minute cooldown, 20-second effect, causes your enemies that are affected by Wither to take more damage and increase the stack count of Wither by 3. I hate to spoil it, but it's bugged. It does not increase stack count currently. It was earlier in the day, but something broke it. It's not working anymore. But it still gives you the acute Withers, and it still gives you your haste buff at 15%, and Chaos Bolt gives you more stacks of Wither. They buffed the haste from 10 to 15 at some point before this build hit. It was initially 10%. Honestly, having this button to hit It feels good. It's like a mini Dark Soul on a 1-minute cooldown, right? But you might be asking, what is Wither? Wither replaces Immolate for Destruction and Corruption for Affliction. Now, there's a lot of like non-bows anti-synergy here. Wither does work with improved Immolate for a longer duration. It does not work at all with Internal Combustion. Doesn't do anything. At the same time, if you have Wither as replacing Immolate, you can't cast Channel Demon Fire. It's either bugged or just not working. It could be bugged. We'll see what happens, but you just can't cast it. It sees a Wither. It doesn't see an Immolate active. So we'll see where it goes. But either way, the big thing with Wither as Destro, it is an instant cast spell. I've been running into packs as Destro and putting up Withers while running in, like jumping. And like it feels insane to do this. Like I can just apply Withers as Destro. It's very cool. Very, very cool. It is not Havocable currently. That might change. I'm actually playing Pandemonium here. This Mayhem, so it's like proccing randomly, but it's not Havocable, but it is still very cool to have an instant cast dot, and you can even cast in the move as Destro, right? Now, putting all that aside, things like this, buff shadow damage and fire damage, you have Blackened Soul, spending shards, further corrupts the target, increasing Wither stacks. At 8 stacks, Wither becomes acute, so it starts reducing in stacks, or at 20% health, and does more damage, right? Now, you can sort of play around that with things like Malevolence at 7 or 8 stacks. You can pop it to add 3 more stacks on, having it do more damage when it's acute for longer, but it's bugged right now. But either way, things like Mark of Partholon, whatever this is, Wither does damage faster. It was bugged earlier, not sure if it's bugged now. Seeds of their demise, Blackened Soul damage increased by 30%. Casting Wither directly or refreshing Wither with less than 4 seconds remaining on a target causes it to give 3 extra stacks. This, I think, is also bugged, unfortunately, but it's basically a pandemic for Wither, whether you're playing Destro or Affliction. And it just, honestly, feels really good, right? But a lot of passive abilities here, too, right? Basically, you put out your Withers, watch them flare up in, like, stat count, and due to Blackened Soul, and due to things like Hate Fury Rituals or Bleak Heart Tactics. And then they go acute and pop your Malevolence, and watch them do more damage and flare up by becoming acute, and also you have more haste, and your bolts apply more stacks. It's very cool. I've been doing it mostly as Affliction, so we're going to look at it from an AF POV here. But honestly, it's sort of hard to describe, but it's, I mean, it feels good to press your buttons in AoE. It feels good to have like a Dark Soul-esque ability to hit. I've been playing this build, the keys I ran earlier. It feels solid. Having Dark Harvest for the haste crit amp, and also hitting Malevolence basically once every minute or so, right? That like haste amp button, so your character gets more powerful, but at the same time, your dots that you put out, your Withers flare up and do more damage. At the end of the run earlier, playing AF, Wither was my #1 most damaging spell by, I think, like 15%. I didn't even play it that great with Malevolence. So let's take a look at it here briefly in AoE and see what it can do. Let me grab my Malevolence on my spellbook here. It's in general. There we go. Yeah. All right. So the big thing here, once again, this is bugged when it comes to increasing stat count, or it was earlier. But I'm going to open up all the same, roughly like we are in Plus. Going to cast a Seed, cast a UA when the pack's getting rounded up. Go into a Vile Taint, put out an actual Siphon Life. Why not? Cast Soul Rock, cast Haunt for the Road. Sure, if you want. Dark Glare, pop Malevolence. My Withers are here. 4 1-on-1, pop it. No extra stacks come in, but Seed giving stacks. You can see they're acute now because I popped Malevolence here, and the Seed spam. The haste coming in. The stacks of Wither. Just keep going. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. And there's actually even a Nightfall there for a Drain Soul proc with Shared Fate. It feels good, man. That Dark Harvest haste amp, having your Withers out feels good. It's hard to describe, but like you're doing damage, you have a haste amp on you, and your dots are doing damage. It just feels like about as close as you can get to like dot damage being relevant AF, but still having Rapture as part of your I guess damage profile and damage suit, right? Once they fix the stack count, like giving more stacks of Malevolence here whenever you pop it, it'll be even more relevant. It was working really well earlier when it was actually working properly, but it was bugged after the servers went down. But it just feels good to hit, man. I'm surprised at how solid Malevolence feels. It's fun to play. It's good in single target. It's gonna be good in AoE. It's just strong in general. Yeah, also, while corrupted, your active Withers do more damage, they're acute, and Rapture grants 1 additional stack of Wither for targets affected by your UA. So a little more funnel damage. This works for both Destro and Affliction. I've played them all. And honestly, like, even with spec trees and things, and the class tree need a little bit of help here and there in certain spots, all 3 hero talents just legit feel good for Warlock. I'm very excited to see what the rest of Alpha and Beta hold for Warlock. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you're as big of a fan of the Warlock Hero Talents as I am. Like I said, I think they're all pretty cool. It's hard to test Destro and AF a decent bit in dungeons now. There's only 2 that are out. They're normal ones and all that. Trash dies pretty fast, but from what I had done and played with and all that, they're pretty awesome. Diabolist is pretty easy to play with. You just cast your normal rotation, but the pets and summons are really cool. Pit Lord, Mother of something, Chaos, the Overlord, and even the Cataclysm mini Smolderon are insane. Honestly, hitting Malevolence, your Hellcaller cooldown feels pretty good, being limited CD, even though it's bugged with Wither stacks all that right now. Honestly, Soul Harvester being pretty much a passive hero talent tree is interesting. There's a lot of unique interactions you have with Soul Fracture and things. It's pretty cool, and honestly, overall, I'm pumped to see, well, where it goes. Like always, if you want any weekly add-ons that I use, Twitch and Discord links down below. If you want them, all for free for you guys. Before I end the video, a huge shout out to my patrons. For also on Patreon, like always, guys, thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here, as well as down below in the video description. Now, it's very important to keep in mind that this is indeed the first build of Alpha. It's going to be probably about another month or so of Alpha, I'd venture to guess, followed by Beta. A lot of class changes coming, all that, I would assume. Warlock hasn't gotten any for the class tree or spec tree, but that's going to change probably, I venture to guess. A lot of hero talents even hint at that happening possibly, so we'll see where it goes. But either way, I'm excited for it. Hopefully y'all are. And keep in mind, S4 drops in like 4 days too. So those guides will be coming out probably starting Sunday. And yeah, we'll go from there. All that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, hit the like and sub button below. Helps out a ton. And I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.